All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, earlier this week, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips introduced the league's new scheduling format for next year. And what we're going to see, this was already talked about this part, the ACC going to 9 conference games to be in alignment with the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12. But it wouldn't be the ACC under the leadership of Jim Phillips if they didn't find a way to screw this up. And honestly, the ACC, I really think, is screwing themselves in more ways than one. Okay. So, with an uneven amount of football teams and the ACC and the whole Notre Dame schedule agreement, this league is now going to have themselves an uneven conference schedule, which means 12 teams are going to play 9 conference games and the other 5 are going to play 8. And I would imagine the 5 teams that are going to play 8 are the 5 teams who are playing Notre Dame that year. I would imagine so. Okay, I could be wrong. But nonetheless, what could go wrong here? As to me, this just has the makings of being a nightmare in so many ways. First off, getting to the ACC championship game, because what happens, okay, if you have a team that's 7-2 as opposed to 7-1, or you have a team that's 7-2 and another, oh my gosh, just thinking about it just makes you go crazy. And not only that, how is that going to affect things as far as this league possibly getting to the college football playoff? These are just things that I'm just asking myself. And I'll say this because I will give the ACC credit for trying, but at the end of the day, I feel like they're just continuing to trip over their own stupidity. To me, I think everything that the ACC has been doing, uh, this is what happens when you are a desperate league. And of the 4 power conferences, the Atlantic Coast is the one that is desperate and on shaky ground. I've been talking about this for months now. The ACC, we saw this a couple of years ago. It was mutually beneficial, if you will, for them to get SMU on board, but it was still a desperate move, given SMU's geography in comparison to the rest of the league. And the same could be said about Stanford and Cal once the original Pac 12 folded. But nonetheless, I've said it before and I'll say it again. And I think it is really beginning to rear its head for the ACC. The Notre Dame factor. When they brought Notre Dame into the fray, it looked cool at the time. But right now, the ACC is finding out what the Big East learned when they still had football. And of course, when the Big East added Notre Dame, it looked cool. But eventually, at the end, it really hurt the Big East. And of course, the Big East no longer has football. I think you can make a very strong case right now that the ACC's agreement is not helpful. The ACC's agreement with Notre Dame, at least, is not helping them because guess what? The Fighting Irish play 5 games against your league. They don't count as league games, and of course, Notre Dame knows if they were to go to a 6 game with the ACC, they would then have to join the league. Notre Dame is not doing so, and of course, we know that there's a lot of bad blood, at least for right now, between Notre Dame and the ACC after we just saw the Fighting Irish miss out on getting to the college football playoff. But again, instead of making things better, I really feel that Jim Phillips is making things worse. And I cannot say this enough. I do truly applaud him for trying because aside from this, he has been trying other things to help the conference in regards to relevance, helping them attempt to improve their standings to get to the college football playoff, the NCAA tournament, and basketball as well. You name it. But for me, I really just feel that an uneven amount of conference games for each school in this era of college football is a recipe for disaster. And of course, we just saw a recipe for disaster with the ACC a couple of weeks ago when it came time to determine who was going to be that second team that got to the ACC championship game when they had that five-way tie. I said all along it should have simply just been the highest ranked team in the playoff rankings. I think that would have alleviated a lot of problems. You would have had Virginia taking on Miami, and then you would have been guaranteed that the ACC would have had their conference champion in the college football playoff. The ACC is the only power conference that does not have their conference champion represented in this college football playoff. And since the CFP expanded to 12 teams last year, the ACC is the only power conference where their conference champion has not even had a first round bye. Remember, last year, Clemson won the ACC. Okay. They were the 12th seed. They were on the road against Texas. The team that came in with the best record during the regular season in the ACC, SMU, still got in last year. But of course, they were the 11th seed. They were on the road against Penn State. And of course, this year, Miami is an at-large team representing the ACC. They're on the road as well as they're traveling to take on Texas A&M this weekend. But nonetheless, like I said, all of this to me has just been a recipe for disaster if you are the ACC. If the ACC won at Pac-12 schools and they got Stanford and Cal, I really feel they should have been more proactive about this, like the Big Ten and the Big 12 were. We heard about rumblings about the Pac-12, going under. The Big 12, I mean, the Big Ten was at the forefront, and the Big Ten was the Big 12 was a couple of steps behind the Big Ten in getting their act together. And the ACC basically had no disrespect to Stanford and Cal, but they had to settle for the scraps. And it's one of those where like this league, I mean, it's just out of whack in more ways than one. It's the easiest way to say it. Now, I'll tell you like this. I really feel, okay, excuse me for one moment, that it's easier to have an uneven basketball league because let's say if you play a 20-game conference schedule, let's say you have 15 teams, for an example. You can play a couple of teams twice a year. The others you'll play one time. Okay, it evens out because you still have the same amount of conference games. In football, especially in with what is at stake right now to try to get to the CFP, it's a little bit tougher. Okay, I really do feel that if the ACC were ready to do business with SMU, okay, from where they came a couple of years ago with 14 schools, I really feel that the ACC should have taken a very strong look at either a Tulane, a Memphis, or even a Connecticut. And I will tell you like this. I truly do think that at some point the ACC is going to regret passing up on at least one of those schools that I just mentioned. Excuse me. We know that Connecticut is not a strong point in football, but their basketball program, you name it, but it would have given you an even format. But then, like I said, you bring in a Memphis, possibly, the natural rivalry with Louisville for so many years, you name it, okay? And the same could be said for a Tulane. You would have had then 18 teams if you wanted to add Stanford and Cal to it. And of course, once you add Notre Dame to the equation, you've got 19 for basketball and other sports. That's fine. Okay. But this uneven schedule, I really do think is going to hurt the ACC. Like I said, I know that Phillips and the ACC, they're also on board with having the 10 games against schools from power conferences and, trying to improve that profile. And of course, some schools already fit into that mix. Why? Because Louisville takes on Kentucky out of the SEC every year. Clemson takes on South Carolina. Georgia Tech takes on Georgia. Florida State meets Florida. It's all about improving that profile. It's all about improving that resume. And of course, you've got to go out there and handle your business in those games. But of course, to me, when I see this, why did everybody in the ACC agree to this? I mean, it's simply a lack of leadership at the top, I feel. And this is a conference where everybody is not on the same page. And this is why I truly do feel that the ACC is going to feel it the next time throughout realignment. Anytime that we have seen a conference go under, it all comes down to the same equations, a part of the equation at least. Everybody's not on the same page, a lack of leadership and money. Okay. And we are seeing the ACC have all of the symptoms of that right now. You hear rumors about North Carolina possibly talking to the SEC, Florida State and Clemson looking for a way out. And I guarantee you, like I've said before, they are not the only ones. Uh, I cannot say this again, and please forgive me if I'm sounding like a broken record here, but I would truly be surprised if this ended well for the ACC. This league just continues to screw things up. The five-way tie, like I said, letting Duke get to the ACC championship game. They're not even in the CFP. Uh, I mean, it's just another bad look, and especially if you're the ACC, your conference champion didn't make the playoff, but two Group of Five conference champions did. Okay, nearly half of this league is looking to get out for the grants of rights. Like I said before, the ACC plan. I thought at first when they said they were going to go to 9 games, all right, it's on point. But now that I see it, I don't think this is going to help them close the gap with the other power conferences. And if this does not help the ACC close the gap with the other power conferences, guess what? People are once again going to be looking for a way out. I will give Jim credit. I'm Jim Phillips his credit, but at the end of the day, this man is basically on a fool's errand, trying to keep this thing together. And whenever you see these leagues get desperate, trying to get creative to do this, that, and the third. Like the old saying goes, it's the last act of a desperate man. This is another one of those acts of a desperate man here in the form of Jim Phillips. I truly do feel nothing good from is going to come from this for the ACC. At this point, just sit back, let the chips fall where they may, and let's see how the next round of realignment goes. And let's see after that round of realignment who is still doing business with the Atlantic Coast Conference. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. And the same can be said for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you are on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. For all of you college football fans, definitely check out this channel tomorrow as I will be giving my preview for the 4 first-round games in this year's CFP. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.